highlights channel of the Ranveer Show. This is TRS Clips. This is the point where I would also like you to explain the houses.
Okay.
In terms of, let's make this personalized for the end viewer. There's a lot of people who don't understand astrology, but I feel like if they get an idea of what houses stand for, it suddenly makes you interested in astrology for the first time. I would always kind of laugh at my mum, who's very into it. All this doesn't work. And when she explained the houses and she explained the positions of my planets, I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Kind of describe my personality. I would even laugh at all these friends of mine who talk about, oh, you're a Libra? That means you could date a Gemini. I would laugh at my friends until I just realized that there's some truth in astrology. And the more I learn about it, the more humble I got about the subject. But it began with understanding what those 12 houses stand for on a very personal level. I will let you expand on this thought.
Let's start with the first house. First house is the Lagna, okay, which we call. Lagna is the zodiac that comes up in the eastern horizon at the moment of birth of an individual, okay, of the 12 houses, whatever is coming up at the eastern horizon.
As in the map of where you were born, at what time you were born, you look at the eastern horizon.
Correct.
Whatever's there.
Whatever sign, house, Rashi is coming up, that is the Lagna.
The question is there a sun there? Is there Mercury in that part? Is there Venus in that part?
That comes the second part. First is you fix the Lagna.
Okay.
From where the calculations are to be done.
Gotcha.
Okay. So Lagna is your house number 1. Okay. It could be any house. Lagna. So Lagna determines the individual's first basic personality. It determines what is their physically, how do they look and things like that, and their thinking process. Lagna is perhaps in a way the self. You are the Lagna first. Okay. How you think, how you determine, how you work and all that, everything will be governed by Lagna.
Can you explain that looks part based on if the sun is in that part or if the moon is in that part?
No, so there are multiple combinations possible in this. Along with the Lagna, there is the trines of the individual. Okay. The reason I'm not going into the specific combinations because there are endless combinations.
Okay. And it'll take too long.
Not just too long. It'll take years to actually grasp. There are so many combinations possible. You will have only through practice. This is the basics I'm talking. But once a person starts practicing and all that, eventually then you will develop your method of understanding how is the looks. So sometimes it's possible that even in a Krura Graha, some of the Grahas, they can give fantastic looks in an individual. Okay. But there will be something in the personality that is not absolutely clean. Okay. So all these things are various possibilities are there. This is house number 1. Okay. It also gives a general idea about your health. Whether, as I said, it is like yourself. How do you look at yourself? Okay.
Also, how like the world would know you?
No. That's very interesting. There is another calculation that goes not at the first level of second level. So there is something known as the Arudha Lagna. There's a specific combination which finds out specific house will have that. And from that point, if you look at the horoscope, then you will understand how the world looks at you. You may think you are XYZ, the world may think you are something else.
Wow. Okay.
Because Jyotish goes to that depth.
Gotcha.
Okay. Your second house governs things like food. What do you like eating? How do you speak? Okay. What's your manner of speech? Is it sweet? Is it rough? Do you lie? Are you truthful? All these things you can find out. Number 2, wealth that comes from your family. Are you born into a rich family, well-off family? Does your family support you, etc.? Like this. Family means parents' side family. Okay. After marriage, it becomes your spouse and all that family. More or less shows the support of your family, resources that your family can provide for you, your food habits, your speech. These things. Okay. I'm just giving broad ideas. Remember that these 9 grahas and 12 rashis govern everything in the universe. If Jyotish is to be taken, we look at from the Jyotish point of view. So that means that each houses and each grahas will have a huge list of things actually connected to them. But these are the most primary things that I'm talking about. Okay. Third house, for example, is communication. Written communication. Okay. It is also the house of courage. How much, whether a person is brave or whether a person is not brave, you can figure out from the third house. Okay. It also gives short travels, not very long. Okay. Maybe from Mumbai to Pune or things like that, short travels. It also governs sports. Okay. Whether you are inclined towards sports, physical sports, not chess and all that. Okay, those things. So, and yeah, it also governs your siblings, specifically younger siblings, those who are younger than you. Whether you have a sibling or not, what is your equation with the sibling, everything. Third house will tell you that. Okay. Your fourth house is your mother. And also the house, your home, where are you staying? Okay. Along with that, from the fourth house, you can figure out things like whether you will stay in a country of your birth, you go to a different place. What is your equation with your mother? First thing. Okay. Then is the vastu of your place correct or not?
Wow.
Where you are staying.
This is almost like intrusively like an X-ray on someone's life.
Yeah.
That's how deep astrology can go if it's in the hands of a
And
right.
this I'm talking is just the starting level. There are more other things there. Okay. Even the charts in Jyotish are not one. One is your Rashi chart, which is this I'm talking about. Then there is Navamsa. And then there are 10, 15 other subtle levels of charts. If I have to check your spirituality, I will check a particular horoscope, which will give a more detailed view of one aspect of your life. If I need to check something else, the various other aspects. So like this, there are multiple charts. And that is why one of the typical questions that come in, that if twins are there of similar birth, why are their lives different? Because even if there is a difference in a few seconds, those secondary, tertiary charts will all start changing.
Wow.
Okay. So this level Western astrology does not have. It's only Jyotish that has it. So we dealt with fourth house is basically a home. Fourth house also determines one very interesting thing. Are you happy or not? Very simply put, your sense of happiness, peace. Fourth house is your heart also. That's one of the first spiritual houses. Fourth. Okay. Then comes fifth house. Fifth house governs creativity. How imaginative are you? How creative are you? Achha, one more thing. Fourth house also governs your primary education, school. Okay. School education and all that. Fifth house will start governing your higher education, your creativity. Most importantly, all artistic people must have certain strong combinations with the fifth house. Fifth house also governs your children. If people have problems in childbirth, often there is some problem in the fifth house. Okay. It's sort of your vision of the future. Sometimes it happens that there may be a negative graha or some other problematic combination in the fifth house. So that individual does not have a clear vision of where am I going in the future. Or you will make plans and they'll never succeed. That's one of the things that fifth house causes the problem. Okay. So fifth house governs these things. Fifth house also governs, by the way, among many other houses also there, but fifth is the first one that governs your mantra. What is the natural affinity of the mantra? Which mantra will work naturally for you?
As in each of the Grahas has its own deity.
No, this is generally speaking. Okay. To give an example, if somebody has, suppose, and mind you, again I'm saying that there are multiple combinations. This is just I'm telling you one. So in suppose fifth house is Mars. Now we have learned that Mars is connected to Hanumanji, Mars is connected to Narasimha, Mars is connected to Skandha, to Baglamukhi. You can choose one of these deities depending on some other key, what are the influences there in Mars, and say that you can start these deities upasana. Okay. Fifth house governs your first natural liking. And the beauty of this is that each house from its shrines, which is from that house, if you connect to fifth and ninth of the house, if you do a calculation, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you take that as the base and connect the fifth one and the ninth one, so these houses will have a natural liking towards each other. 1, 5, 9 from any house. So basically means yourself is house 1. 5 is your children. So generally humanity will have a love for their child. Okay. If this was not there, why would a person take care of a child?
What about the 9th?
Ninth is your forefathers, your father.
Okay.
So this makes a very interesting yourself, your future, and your past. They are linked together. Okay.
We were at the 5th house.
5th house. Now let's come to the 6th house. This is the first difficult house in the horoscope. 6th is the house of diseases. 6th is the house of enemies. 6th is the house of debts. 6th is the house of court cases. All these things will come from 6th house. Okay. So if there's a problem of enemies or things like that, difficulties, from looking at the combination in the 6th house and the Grahas, you can make out that whether how long it is going to last, or what is the way to get out of it, or if at all you can get out of it or not. And plus diseases and all that is governed by 6th house. Okay. On the positive side, 6th house can also indicate service. Service means to serve somebody without expectation. That is also governed by the 6th house. Okay. Then comes 7th house. 7th house is the house of your spouse, your partner. 7th house is also the window to the world. Okay, because it's just opposite to yourself. 7th house is also a house of business, a partnership. If you're doing a business, so whether you will work or whether you will do business, in that 7th house plays a key role to determine. But more or less, your marriage and relationships, first thing is that 7th house it will govern. Very interestingly, by the way, 5th house governs a feeling of love. But whether that translates into something concrete eventually will be governed by the 7th house. And it is the job of the person who is doing the analysis to see how it links up everything. Okay. Then comes the 8th house. This is the mysterious house. Bad and good. Bad because it is a house where if a graha is placed, more or less it is going to give you trouble. That's certain. Just like 6th house. 6th house is going to give you trouble. 8th house is also going to give you trouble. 8th house is everything in your life that you cannot see. Everything that you cannot predict. You thought that all bases are covered. 8th house is what you never expect to happen. Unexpected things. Accidents. Nobody expects an accident. Right? Absolutely unknown things. That comes from 8th house. Whether sometimes you'll see a person, normal life is leading, out of the blue he acquires some wealth or something like that happens, or something, some sudden change that comes in, positive or negative. It's all 8th house. That which you could not predict before. No one could predict. Out of the blue it will happen. 8th house also governs your longevity, more or less how many years you will survive. 8th house is death. 8th house is sex. 7th house is also sex, but 8th house shows whether a person enjoys it or not. And it can also govern and show you if there are any kind of diseases or anything related to sexuality. All that will come out from the 8th house. 8th house is occult. Almost every individual who is good in occult will have certain strong 8th house combinations. Okay. Because occult means what? That which you cannot actually see in the normal sense. That's where your occult starts. 8th house governs all that. Okay. 8th house also governs things like Kundalini and all that. So 8th house also governs inheritance. Very interestingly. Okay. Whether you will attain inheritance. It also governs whether you will attain any inheritance from your spouse. Some people may marry into a very rich family. Okay. Get something from there. So all that is governed by the condition of the 8th house. Okay. Then comes to 9th house. 9th house is your father. 9th house is your dharma. 9th house is your guru. Because father is your first guru, in a way. When a child is born, it's considered. 9th house shows more or less if a person, what kind of guru and what kind of guidance he will receive, where he will receive the guidance from, what teachers, how is his equation with the teachers. Okay. These things will come out from the 9th house. Plus, 9th house also governs things like, suppose you're doing PhD and that level of study, 9th house comes into play. Okay. Pitru doshas and all that, if they are there in the chart, they are reflected among other things through the 9th house also. Okay. So 9th house is fundamentally your guru. Acha, 9th house also is your devata, by the way. Not just 5th. 9th is also your devata. 9th is not just a devata, it is in your house or wherever you do your spiritual practice. It governs and shows what kind of spiritual practice is it doing. Is that space nice or is that space problematic or whatever? Many things can come in 9th house. 9th house is your connection to God. Okay. Then comes 10th house. 10th house is very powerful house. 10th house is your karma. 9th is dharma, 10th is karma. Karma is fundamentally, where are you placed in society? How is society looking at you? What have you achieved in life? What is your area of work? So basically, when questions on career and work comes in, 10th becomes very important. You see that what kind of work you can do. So now if you link this knowledge with initials of Jyotish are, people have to remember these things. If you don't remember, you'll never be able to do Jyotish. This should be completely inside your head. So we have talked about Mars as a graha that connects to police and army, and suppose someone has Mars placed in the 10th house, very strong, you can more or less predict that, okay, this guy is likely to go into police or this type of work. Okay, because that is the area of work and that is the graha placed there. Now if you change Mars and suppose Venus comes in, safely predict he is either going to be in some fashion industry or media or something like that. Change it to Moon. Okay. Moon, I had said, among other things, is that food. So maybe he should open a restaurant. See. Change it to Sun. Try for government jobs. UPSC, this, that, it's straight away. 10th house is also, in some people consider 10th also to be father. Okay. But more or less, fundamentally, 10th shows your kind of where do you stand in society, what work you can do, and how far you will succeed and things like that. Okay. So that makes it a very crucial house for people. Okay. 10th is that. Then comes to the 11th house. 11th house governs things like wealth, your earning. Okay. How much salary are you getting? Or what is your earning from the work you are getting? Whatever you are doing. Okay. 11th house is, first thing is earnings. Second thing about 11th house is that it also rules your friends. How is your friend circle? Okay. So if you have a Rahu in your 11th house, you will have Rahu influenced friends around you. Okay. Like that. These two connections are very simple. So once you remember these two, first step of Jyotish is to remember these things. Unless you remember them, you will never be able to do. You remember them, then you apply. After that, you practice and apply, and there are other sadhanas you do which can make you better in Jyotish. Many things are there. Anyway, so wealth, earnings specifically, salary, what we call, all these things are 11th house. 11th house is also your friends. 11th house is also your elder sibling. Somebody who is elder to you. If you have an elder sibling, if at all you have an elder sibling, what is your equation with the elder sibling? All these things will come in 11th house. Okay. And 11th house is also your relatives, more or less, broadly speaking. See, whatever the as I'm saying about the different houses, these are like the first level. There are more things involved. As I said, 9 grahas, 12 houses govern everything in the world, if you can see it that way. Okay, so obviously the list will be very heavy. After 11th, so 11th house, if somebody has to give an example, if somebody has Jupiter in the 11th house, he'll make a lot of wealth, but he'll be clean wealth because Jupiter is an ethical graha. Somebody has, say, Rahu in the 11th house, he'll be very rich. In fact, negative grahas, not negative, krura grahas in the 11th house bring tremendous amount of wealth, but there'll always be some corruption involved in it. It's not going to be, in fact, understanding these things in a horoscope, you can look at a person's horoscope and see that is he amenable to corruption or not. Can you bribe this person or not? Even better than predicting what is going to happen later, Horoscopes work even more powerfully in understanding the nature of the person. How is he going to react? If you know your fundamentals in Jyotish well, you can figure out.
If you have data on the person's date, time, and place of birth, you have some level of power over the person.
One way of looking at it that way, but nature is smarter than you. Remember this always. So nature is never going to give power to somebody who doesn't deserve it. There is a responsibility that comes in with Jyotish, not to be misused. And if you start frivolously using it, after some time, your predictions, all of them will go wrong.
Wow.
You can try, you can mug up all the texts in the world. Still, the art of prediction is something different. It will still be things are not going correct. So nature has its own way of balancing things. Big boss is nature. Then after the 11th house, we come to the 12th house. 12th house is also sort of a negative house. Just like 6th and 8th, 12th. There is something negative and then there is something positive also. In the negative sense, 12th house represents things, hidden enemies you may have, hospitalization, long-term diseases, secret relationships, okay, which are not there in public, secretly some affair or something going on, etc. On the positive side, 12th house can represent meditative capacity. 12th house is, it's like that part of the mind or that zone. It's also your sleep, by the way. Yeah, 12th house is your sleep. So looking at 12th house, you can figure out whether a person dreams a lot, dreams less, good dreams, bad dreams. Many things you can figure out. And yes, meditative capacity. Whether you can meditate. Because meditation is also like sleep, except you are not losing consciousness completely. Okay, you are being aware and you are going to a different zone. How far you can meditate or not depends on, often very good meditators have very strong grahas in the 12th house. Okay, so these are the 12 houses.
So these are playlists made especially for you. We've tailor-made learning experiences for you in the RAAAZ clips.